The rules of money. Let me enlighten you on the sacred doctrines that govern this elusive and utterly baffling concept we call currency. Strap in, because it's going to be a wild ride through the land of financial wisdom, where logic is optional and common sense is a rare commodity. First and foremost, let's talk about the golden rule. Save your money. Yes, save it. But don't save it too much, because then you'll be labeled a miser. You know, the kind of person who hoards pennies like they're about to become the new Bitcoin. You want to save, but not too much. Because if you save too much, you'll miss out on all the fun things in life, like overpriced coffee, and that new gadget you absolutely don't need but simply must have. The irony is rich, isn't it? You save to spend, but if you save too much, you're just a sad little hermit in a cave of dollars. Next, we have the advice. Invest wisely. What does that even mean? Invest wisely, they say, as if there's a magical crystal ball that tells you which stock will soar and which will plummet faster than a lead balloon. Oh, just put your money in the stock market, they say, as if it's a game of Monopoly where you just roll the dice and hope for boardwalk. Meanwhile, you're sweating bullets, watching your hard-earned cash vanish into thin air while your neighbor brags about how he invested in some tech startup that's only a few $100 million in debt. Congratulations, you're now a proud owner of a piece of digital nothingness. And let's not forget about the emergency fund. Yes, the emergency fund, the holy grail of financial planning. You're supposed to save 3 to 6 months' worth of expenses, but let's be real. Who has that kind of cash lying around? You might as well be saving for a trip to Mars. Instead, you're lucky if you can scrape together enough for a pizza on a Friday night. But hey, if your car breaks down, just remember, it's an emergency, and you can always dip into that fund you don't have. Who needs a reliable vehicle anyway? Walking builds character. Now, let's dive into the world of credit. Build your credit score, they chant, as if it's a magical incantation that will grant you access to the kingdom of loans and mortgages. The irony here is that to build your credit, you need to go into debt. Yes, that's right. You must borrow money. You don't have to prove you can pay it back. It's like being asked to show your ability to swim by jumping into the deep end of a pool while wearing a blindfold. Just pay your bills on time, they say, as if that's the easiest thing in the world. Meanwhile, you're juggling bills, student loans, and the existential dread of adulthood. Who knew being responsible would feel like a circus act? Speaking of adulthood, let's talk about the American dream. You know, that charming little notion that if you work hard enough, you can achieve anything, including financial stability. But let's be honest, the American dream is more like a financial nightmare for most. You work your fingers to the bone, only to find yourself drowning in a sea of debt, while the guy who invented the pet rock is lounging on a beach somewhere, sipping cocktails and laughing at your misfortune. But don't worry, just keep telling yourself that hard work pays off and that someday, you too can be a millionaire. Right after you pay off your student loans, your mortgage, and that pesky credit card bill that's been haunting you since last Halloween. And let's not forget the joys of budgeting. Yes, the sacred art of tracking your spending and allocating your funds like a master chef crafting a gourmet meal. Just create a budget. Easy, they say, as if it's as easy as pie. But let's be real. It's more like trying to bake a souffle while blindfolded. You start off with the best intentions, meticulously planning every dollar. But then life happens. You get invited to a wedding, you need a new pair of shoes, and suddenly your budget looks like a bad Picasso painting, chaotic and confusing. But hey, at least you can tell yourself you're living within your means while you're crying into your empty wallet. Now, let's touch on the concept of financial freedom. Yes, the elusive goal that everyone seems to be chasing. Financial freedom is like a mirage in the desert, always just out of reach. You work, save, invest, and plan. But somehow, you always end up back where you started, in a cycle of bills, debt, and questionable spending decisions. But don't lose hope. Just keep scrolling through social media, watching influencers flaunt their lavish lifestyles, and remind yourself that you too can achieve financial freedom if you just ignore the fact that they probably have a trust fund and a team of accountants. And finally, let's wrap this up with a little nugget of wisdom. Money can't buy happiness. That's right, money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a whole lot of distractions. You can buy a new car, a fancy watch, or a subscription to a service that sends you random boxes of stuff you didn't know you wanted. And while you're temporarily distracted from the crushing weight of reality, you can convince yourself that you're living your best life. So go ahead, chase that dollar. Just remember to smile while you do it, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to keep up with the rules of money in this absurd game we call life.